What's up, Net Soldiers on the Alliance, and welcome back to the video. So this is going to be a pretty casual video. I'm going to make this pretty much like a podcast. I don't know how long it's going to last, but on my community tab, I actually asked you guys, hey, what are some like spoilery questions you want to ask me about the Rise of Skywalker? What are your opinions on certain things? So yes, this is going to have spoilers. You couldn't tell already. And like I said, this is going to be like a podcast. So you're going to be getting like, it's doing it live. So there's not going to be any cuts. So if I mess up, the mess up's going to stay in the video, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I asked you guys, hey, what do you want to hear me talk about? Pretty much I saw everyone else doing reviews, and I was going to do like a spoiler review, and then I thought maybe it'd be cooler if I actually did a video where it would be like you guys asking me specific questions. So instead of me covering the entire movie, I would just cover the things you guys actually wanted to hear. So I have a ton of questions here. I was only going to do like maybe 10, but I have like 40 or something here. So I have a lot, and they're all really good. So I was like, you know, instead of doing like a 10-minute video where I answer like 10 questions, I'm just going to do all the ones I can, or all the ones that I think were worthy of doing some. There were actually some duplicates. So the first person to suggest a certain question, even if it's similar, that's the person who won. So with that said, guys, before we begin, if you enjoy this video and you want to see more, please want to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more videos. I might do more podcasts like this, you know, just like unscripted, sit here and kind of just like hang out with you guys. I got my drink right here, drinking some drink. That's good. And we're just hanging out. So let's see how this goes. Yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just jump into the first questions here. Okay, so like I said, I know. Hold on. Oh, yeah. I was reading another comment, and someone just commented as soon as I said I'm on this video. Anyways, so before we actually jump in, like I said, guys, what were your Q&A spoilers and stuff like that? And feel free in the comments, this is going to be not a spoiler-free video, so you can do as many different spoilers you want to throw in here. Go and do it. Leave in the comments. You can answer every single one of these if you want in the comments. Feel free to. The title is going to have spoilers in it, so if someone meanders onto this video and gets mad about spoilers, you did it to yourself. Anyways, without further ado, guys, let's jump into this video here. So first off, we have from Jacob Chilili. I think that's how that's said, and he says, when Kylo Ren was when Kylo Ren was talking to Vader's mask, do you think that the Emperor was talking to him in Vader's voice? Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what that whole scene was kind of about. When the Emperor says to Kylo Ren in the beginning of the movie, he's like, "I have been every voice you've heard." And at first we hear Palpatine's voice, then we hear Snoke's voice, and then we hear Vader's voice. So that means that Palpatine has actually been messing with Kylo Ren's head ever since Kylo probably found out that Vader was his grandfather. So that's an actual pretty cool concept, and that's actually one of the things I'm going to be covering later on in this video. So yes, that is pretty much what has happened, and that is what we're supposed to believe now. And remember in The Force Awakens, I remember thinking, well, why is Anakin's Force Ghost? Would he be doing this? Or is Vader's Force Ghost different from Anakin's Force Ghost? Initially, I think that was going to be like the idea that, you know, though Vader's gone, his dark essence is still around. And, you know, if JJ would have stuck around with the franchise instead of leaving for the second part, which would be Episode 8, we probably maybe would have seen something along those lines, like an evil Vader, or I should say the dark side of Anakin, which would be Vader, coming back and kind of being like a big threat. But they kind of just retconned it, and they made it as though the Palpatine was actually doing that. So I'm okay with it. I think it's a pretty cool idea. I guess, you know, if you're gonna bring Palpatine back somehow, I guess that's the best way to do it. I guess. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Next one is actually from Hello There, and he says, "How do you feel about Palpatine's return?" Okay, so like this kind of goes in hand with what I just said. So. With Palpatine's return, I'm actually okay with it. I think if you're going to do Palpatine's return, I think it was done pretty well. I would have liked more explanation on how he kind of came back. I know they mentioned that the dark side is, you know, they used a quote from Episode 3. The dark side is a gateway to a bunch of different dark arts of the Force. Some consider unnatural. I should know that quote because I've seen that movie a ton of times, but for some reason, it's just not in my head. Maybe because I'm doing this unscripted. So, yeah, so overall, I think that there could have been more done with it. I think it was pretty good the way they did it. If they're going to bring Palpatine back, I think they did it probably in the best way. Kind of have him like the leading man the entire time. You know, he was running the show since episode 1. He was running the show since episode 4. And he's still running the show even in episode 7. So that's a pretty cool way to bring the whole saga together. And I'm okay with that. Next one we have Jacob Chalili again. And he says, are you satisfied with the end of Skywalker saga? I would say I'm not really necessarily satisfied. Like this last movie, Rise of Skywalker, I think was good. It was not a great movie, and it definitely had different aspects that were missing. But for the most part, the majority of the questions I had asked from The Force Awakens that I didn't get answered in The Last Jedi were answered. And I think that was kind of one of the big points about what JJ was trying to do. He was trying to finish off the story and answer some of the questions that he left open that Rian Johnson didn't open. So, am I satisfied? No, but I'm okay with what happened, I guess I could say. You know, I'm okay with the ending. I'm not necessarily satisfied with it, though. I definitely think that there was room for an Anakin and ObiWan Force Ghost even showing up. Even if it is for a brief cameo, even if they're just kind of standing in the background behind like Luke and Leia at the very end. I thought we were going to see like a whole like group of Force Ghosts in the very end scene. Like even if it is just Skywalkers, we'd at least see like Anakin hanging out there. And, you know, even Ben could be hanging out there too. I don't necessarily know how it's going to go for future films, but I think there's actually a question that covers that. So I'll get to that when we get further into the video. So yeah, overall, I'm not necessarily satisfied, but I'm okay with the ending. And I think it did the best with what it had, or what it could do, considering The Last Jedi kind of threw a wrench in the story. So no hate to The Last Jedi. If you like The Last Jedi, that's fine. It's just JJ was the creator of the story and he wrote the ending, but someone else wrote the middle, and that was kind of like, that kind of broke the story. So that's all it is. Okay, next one is going, hello there. Okay, so there's definitely other people who commented. I just think I'm just going back and forth right now with these two guys. So hello there says, what do you think about Snoke? Okay, so we get revealed in the beginning of the movie. It pretty much gets told right off the bat that Snoke is just a clone made by Palpatine. I had an idea this was going to happen for a while. I initially thought that Palpatine was actually going to be revealed as the clone of Snoke, and there was kind of like a Darth Vitiate thing going on from the Old Republic. So they kind of did that, except for instead of Snoke controlling Palpatine for episode 1 through 6, it was Palpatine was still alive, or at least his essence was, and he was using the Snoke clones to keep the First Order going until the final order was ready to attack the galaxy. So that's kind of what we see, and I guess I'm fine with it. The Last Jedi kind of just didn't use Snoke, and I had a lot of questions after that film, and I think this movie did a good job of at least answering that question. There's a lot of questions people didn't necessarily like the answers to, but I think out of all of them, the Snoke answer kind of solves pretty much a lot of problems people have with The Last Jedi right there, because Snoke was wasted. I remember being pretty annoyed by that, although I did respect that, like the red herring situation going on with him. Ultimately, it was pretty good, so I'm okay with that. Next one we have, next one's from Mr. Tommy Taco, and he says, how did you feel about that kiss? Okay, so he's talking about the kiss between Rey and Kylo. So this is a little weird to me. Not necessarily because I didn't see them being together. I kind of saw the hint towards it in The Last Jedi, and I didn't necessarily care about it, but it is kind of weird if you consider the fact that if Palpatine has since been confirmed in canon to have created Anakin, even though he's not technically biologically related, he is kind of like Anakin's spiritual father, right? So Anakin then had Luke, and then Luke... Anakin had Luke and Leia, and then Leia had Ben Solo, right? And then Rey was the daughter of Palpatine's son. So technically speaking, they're not related, but they also kind of are. They're, I guess, Kylo would be like Rey's niece or nephew. Is that how it would work? Because he'd be like his third cousin. So I mean, we've seen incest before with Luke and Leia, so hey, that's just the way it is. But I guess this one's a little more like forgivable because they're not actually related. So I'm okay with this one. But that is something to consider. Overall, though, the kiss. I thought it was a little forced. It did feel a little awkward, but I thought it was better than the kiss in Last Jedi. So I guess I'll give it a pass. If Rey's gonna have a love interest, it was gonna be either Finn. Although I did kind of detect some type of tension between her and Poe throughout this film. Maybe that's just me, but I kind of felt that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys felt that too. But in the end of the day, the very ending, they fought together, and then Kylo gave his life to save Rey, and then she felt that and she kissed him in the moment. So even if they didn't necessarily want to be in love, it was just like a compassionate thing to do, and I'm okay with it. There are worse things in this movie than that, in my opinion, so I'm going to give it a pass. Okay, next one we're looking at Blazing Fighter. He says, do you think the ritual Darth Sidious wanted Rey to perform is what he did to his master Darth Plagueis? See, that's a good question. That's probably one of the bigger questions in my mind that I didn't hear other people talking about online. In the scene, Palpatine's like, hey, if you kill me, then I will take your body. And I'm assuming that that's exactly what Palpatine did to Plagueis. Or Plagueis knew Palpatine was going to kill him, and so Plagueis allowed himself to get killed by Palpatine so then he could then consume Palpatine. And this entire time, Palpatine was Plagueis. Or you can get even deeper than that, because I'd assume Plagueis probably killed his master, and he killed his master, and he killed his master. So it adds a whole new dynamic to the idea that the Sith are more than just killing each other. They're killing the person before them and then consuming their energy. So it's almost as if the Sith is just one ancient being who's just been traveling from one enemy to the next, to the next, to the next. And we just know him as Palpatine, but he could be anyone. He could be like Darth Bane, you know what I mean? Like that far back, because he was the one who created the rule of one. Maybe Darth Bane, in order to survive forever, has created this idea, this ideology among the Sith that if they continue to kill their masters, they're going to get stronger. Well, they get stronger because they don't just kill them; it's because their masters consume them. But it's not that their masters consume them; it's that Darth Bane has been consuming every single person. So this is not the death of Palpatine; this is the death of Darth Bane. Now, of course, this is completely a theory, but that'd actually be pretty dope. Like that would just blow my mind if that was the possibility, because we could then do episode 10, 11, and 12 in the future, maybe like in 10 years, and that would be a cool story point to pick up. The fact that Palpatine was just kind of just a puppet, and all the Sith before him were a puppet themselves of Darth Bane, and he's been traveling through this, the lineages for this entire time. So, I mean, that'd be a cool idea, but I don't necessarily think they're going to go with that. We might never ever see an episode 10, but I'm going to guess in probably 10 years we'll see an episode 10. I don't know, maybe that's just my opinion. Rey's going to have her own Jedi Academy. We're actually going to see the Jedi Academy, and I think that's going to be pretty cool to see, but, who knows. So, yeah, or she's going to have her Skywalker Academy. All right, so next one we're going to Waterbender24, and he says, what did you think of the Han Solo cameo? Okay, so this one is a pretty interesting one, because this had the fan base split, because people didn't know. This comes off the idea that, like, hey, only Force ghosts can come back to life, right? But this wasn't actually Han's, like, essence. This was a memory created from Kylo's own mind that he used the Force to create. So I think that's an interesting concept. We've never really seen anything like that. The idea that he brought Han back from his own memories. Instead of Han's soul actually being there, it was the Han that he knew. It was his dad coming back. So I thought that was a pretty cool concept to explore. I definitely think that it was kind of a missed opportunity for me, and this might have just been me, but when I was watching the film, especially, the first time, yeah. When I was watching the film the first time and I heard, hey kid, and then you see Kylo turn around and I'm like, that voice sounded like Hayden Christensen. And for a second I'm like, is Anakin actually going to show up? Is Anakin going to talk to his grandson? This is the scene I've been waiting for since episode 7. And then it was Han. And I'm like, oh, man. And here's the thing. I love Han. You know what I mean? He's my favorite character out of the original trilogy. I love him. And it's great to see him again. The issue was that scene should have been Anakin. The reason why I feel this way is because Anakin should have came back and talked to his grandson about... He should have been the reason for turning his grandson back to the light. So as we know, Palpatine has been corrupting Kylo for a long time, pretending to be Vader. So I initially thought that what was going to happen was Anakin would be showing up to be like the beacon of light, to be like, hey, look, Kylo, you messed up. Yes, you have a lot of sins, and the sins of the past don't forgive the deeds of the present. However, there is still time to help Rey and to save the galaxy. And I think that should have been what happened. And while I'm not against the idea of Han coming back, because like I said, I love Han, that scene should have been Anakin in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below. I actually put a poll up here for this too. What do you guys think? Do you think the Han Solo was better, or do you think that it should have been Anakin talking to him, giving a little pep talk? Let me know up there. You can vote, and then let me know in the comments below. Okay, so now moving on to the next question. We have Dead Walker, and he says, what do you think of Rey's yellow lightsaber? I think it's okay. I don't really have an issue with it. I looked online, the symbolism for why this was. Now, I didn't actually look it up. A Facebook thing was like, hey, look this up. And I was like, okay, let's see what JJ meant by this. And I just thought it was like a yellow lightsaber initially. I didn't really think too deep into it, but if you combine the colors red and green, you get yellow. And that was the reasoning for this, because like a pure Jedi is green, so they say, and then a pure Sith is red. And so they're combined. You'd think blue would be the purest, but apparently green is more pure. So that's the idea. She's not a Jedi, and she's not a Sith. The yellow represents that she is in between. She is a Skywalker. So that's what that means. And I think that's pretty cool. So yeah. Next one, we have Darth Primus, and he says, do you think that Palpatine coming back ruins Anakin's redemption and sacrifice? I think in a way, yes, it does. But I also think it doesn't, because Anakin destroyed Palpatine's physical body, and his soul escaped. And it was just Rey assisted in finishing off the legacy. So if you look at it that way, it becomes a little bit more easier to swallow, especially when you consider the fact that people have been saying that this has been betraying the story that's been set up with Vader and Luke. And I don't know if that necessarily is true. I think what I've definitely noticed is that this is Rey finishing what Anakin started. If you remember Kylo saying to the mask in episode 7, he's like, I'm going to finish what you started, grandfather. Well, now we come to this point, and Kylo assisted with Rey finishing what he started. So in a way, he did finish what Kylo did finish what Vader started, in a way. And I think that's pretty cool that they did that. Or I should say Ben finished what Anakin started with the assistance of Rey. Or I should say Rey actually finished it, but without Kylo being there, she might have died anyways. So together they came together and they won. So that was good. So yeah, I do feel a little bit disappointed because Anakin's sacrifice is a little bit in vain now. But ultimately, I think it's not the worst. And Rey just kind of finishes off what Anakin already started. So I'm okay with that idea. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Like, for all of these, just let me know your opinions. Do you think that these are good ideas? Do you think that I'm full of crap? Let me know down there in the comments below. Okay, next one we're moving to Ali Ayman. And he says, how do you feel about the one and only lightsaber fight in this movie, Rey and Kylo? I think we all knew that nobody was going to end up dying from the fight, so did it take away from the Star Wars flair from this video, or from this movie? So I kind of agree. So technically there wasn't just one fight. I think there was like 3. They fought 3 times, and it was kind of a little bit jarring when I thought about it after I watched the film. We see different fight scenes where they're fighting in different areas. Now I think there's only 2 lightsaber fights between the 2 of them, One where they're having the force projections, and then one on the water planet, not Endor, but another planet, but it's not Endor, it's another one. And then they have the force battle. That's right, that's the one I was thinking about. So I think it was okay. It's definitely not like the best of the movies. Like it doesn't compare to episode 3's, but you know what, like when I think about it more, you know, Rey and Kylo, they're different type of force sensitive Jedi. I would or Jedi slash dark side, not really a Sith, but kind of a Sith. They're different warriors overall. Anakin and ObiWan, you know, they were Clone Wars veterans, you know, so their battle should be the best, and that's just how it should be. Vader and Obi-Wan's battle in the end of episode 3, that should be the best. There should never be a fight that ever compares to that, because at the time, those two are like at the peak of their power. So when people complain about that fight being over the top or too much, I disagree completely, because these are two of the strongest Force users ever just fighting. So I never understood the idea of complaining about that fight, because I think it's perfectly fine the way it is. However, the Tarzan fight, I guess. The Tarzan part where they're like kind of riding the power lines or whatever, that might have been a little far, but overall, I understand now. When I saw episode 7, I was very disappointed that Rey lost, even though I know Kylo was weak. Rey had zero training. So now they tried to give this idea that, well, because she's a Palpatine, she naturally just has this gift. And episode 7, 8, and 9 have already retconned a lot of stuff from the past. But they kind of answered in episode 8 by saying that, hey, as one gets better, the other one will rise to meet it. So technically speaking, if that is true, I think they mean like force sensitive, but if Kylo and Rey are linked, and Kylo has been training his entire life as a lightsaber fighter, then technically Rey would then also be good. I see, that doesn't really get answered. It doesn't really get talked about in episode 9 at all. So that's the theory I'm going to go with, because that makes sense for why she was so good, because she had his skill, and when she focused her mind when they were on the side of the cliff, when she focused her mind, she kind of linked up with that ability, and then kicked his butt. I think that's maybe why that happened, because he was also weak, and she used that against him, and that's why she won. Now, I do like the fact that in this fight, at the end of this fight, Rey actually loses. I thought that was cool. Like, Kylo won that fight. The only reason she won was because Leia sacrificed herself so that Rey could lose, or so Rey could win. And I think that was a cool way of doing that. The idea that Kylo actually was going to win that fight. That was just cool to me. Overall, I said, like, we're not probably going to see another fight like the prequel fights, because those were like your battle-hardened, lightsaber-wielding Jedi. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. And I would have liked a little more like choreography. There's definitely a lot of cuts. You know what I mean? Like a lot of like one scene would have like 10 cuts compared to like the prequels, where they do like one cut and just kind of like follow this whole fight so you can really focus in on it. It was okay though. Yeah, so, but I do feel like maybe it did take away a little bit from the overall movie, because yeah, we knew neither one of them was going to die. However, when Kylo got stabbed, I was actually like, whoa. If I didn't already know that Rey could heal him and she's going to do that, I would actually be pretty like, this scene would be insane. You know what I mean? So, that's how I feel anyways. Okay, next one we have from Chloe Wiggins, and she says, how did Maz get Anakin's lightsaber? So yeah, that's the question we haven't been told yet. Maz is actually in the movie, and I actually thought that maybe she'd be like sitting around some rebels, and she'd be like, yeah, so I got the lightsaber from this drunk trader who happened to find it among the Cloud City wreckage, and then sold it to me, and blah blah blah, you know. Like, and then that scene could then fade into like what the actual story would be, you know, or something along those lines, like a small little scene in the beginning of a more serious scene, just to kind of have like background talk, so we can hear, oh, that's how she found it. Boom, easy check mark checked. What I'll say about this movie is there's a lot of things that, like, questions that were raised in episode 7, that it did kind of seem like JJ was kind of like checking off the list, if you know what I mean. Like, he's like, oh, check that. Okay, oh, another one, check that, you know, and you can kind of detect that. And I don't mind that. I actually prefer it that way, you know, because at least I can get stuff. I mean, I guess he kind of rushed a few things, but at least I get my answers that I've been waiting for 4 years. Yeah, since The Force Awakens, so I can't really complain about that. Yeah. So next one we have from the Hooded Maniac 360, who said, What are your thoughts on Rey being the granddaughter of Palpatine? Okay, so this one is another interesting one that people are really mad about because it's been like a fan fiction for a while that's like what's happening. I think actually I made a joke about this back in like 2015 in one of my videos, and people were like thinking I was joking around, and I was joking, and I ended up being right anyways, so that's cool, I guess. So me personally, I'm okay with it. I like the idea more that the Force would have recreated a leader or recreated Anakin's spirit. Because if you look at Episode 7, we don't know anything about Rey. Initially, we're thinking like, how did she get so powerful? How is she so strong? What made sense for me is maybe it's because her soul comes from Anakin's power. So she's not Anakin, but she is her own being with Anakin's soul inside, kind of. It sounds like strange, but like she was brought back by the Force to take on Palpatine. So you know how like how Anakin was like the chosen one, but technically he was only considered the chosen one because Palpatine actually created him and people saw him as the chosen one. So in a way, he wasn't actually the chosen one, which I guess would probably annoy a lot of fans. But then Rey would have been the actual Force chosen one that would have brought balance and taken down Palpatine. So while Anakin's sacrifice wouldn't have been in vain, the true chosen one would have been Rey. But it's because of Anakin's death, he then transferred his power to Rey, so Rey could defeat the Palpatine. Yeah, so Rey could defeat Palpatine and could win. So in a way, although Anakin is gone, it wouldn't be like his sacrifice was in vain because his sacrifice allowed Rey to show up to then take down Palpatine. I actually think that would have been such a cooler idea. And the granddaughter thing is okay. It just makes you wonder, like, well, then who was his son? You know, who was his son's wife? You know what I mean? Like, who are these people? Explain that a little more. I know it doesn't matter, and I know we're going to get books and novels on this, and comic books and stuff like that. But I definitely want more explanation on who his son was, and why Palpatine, or why he was in hiding for so long. I don't know. I want to hear more about that. Okay, next one we have Star Wars Talk, and he says, what do you think about the new characters? Okay, so in Episode 7, I liked Finn, I liked Poe, and I liked Rey. There were some issues with all of them, but ultimately, they were decent. In The Last Jedi, I liked Rey. And that's it. They made out Poe to look like an idiot, even though he was in the right the entire time, but of course the film turned it so he was the idiot and in the whole situation. And then Finn did nothing. So it was cool to see them doing stuff in this film. It was cool to see them all hanging out, being friends, and bickering. You know, one of the first scenes in this entire movie is Rey and Poe going at it, and you know, and Poe's in the right again. And I think it's cool that the film actually does this. It does this thing initially where it makes you think that Poe is overreacting. But then when Poe makes a really good point, when he explains the fact that Rey is their best fighter, so why isn't she fighting? He makes a good point. You know what I mean? You got a Jedi on your side. Why is that Jedi not helping to fight? So I like the fact that this movie kind of rectified the idea of making Poe look like an idiot in the past movie, although he was right, and they actually made him look smart, and for that reason. So I like all these characters. Our main characters. I think there's a question on the newer characters later on, so I'll get to those characters then. But yeah, overall, I think that they're a lot better characters so far, and that's one of the best things. That's the reason why I think Episode 9 is the best out of the sequel trilogy, is because Poe, Rey, and Finn are better characters, and they actually work really well together. It does kind of make me sad that I didn't see any of that in The Last Jedi, but that is what it is, you know. Okay, so moving on to the next one, we have the hybrid, and the hybrid says, would you like to see these characters in another movie? Okay, so I guess you could say, like, would I like to see in Episode 10? Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. So, this movie ends off in a way that hints towards the future. It doesn't necessarily... Sorry. Hold on, I gotta drink. Okay. It doesn't necessarily say like, hey, there's going to be something in the future, but it ends in a way that there's definitely hope for future films. Now, like I said, I don't know if we'll see Episode 10, 11, and 12, But I definitely think we're going to see spin-offs with these characters. I think that now that episodes 1 through 9 are done, the whole Palpatine and Skywalker collection are done, we're going to see spin-off films of these characters. I'd like to see maybe like, if they want to keep the Force powers away, I think it'd be cool to kind of see like a Finn and Poe adventure. You know, just them two, it'd be kind of like reminiscent of the Solo movie, like with Han and Lando, except for it'd be Finn and Poe, because I think those two really work off together. I think they do a good job. And they could even bring Poe's new friend, the girl that you only see her eyes. They could bring her along too. I think that'd be a pretty cool movie if they did something along those lines. And they could just be doing something like, maybe like doing like a secret mission for the Republic, maybe hunting down the last of the First Order or something like that. Rey can even be in it too, but if Disney wanted to kind of keep like the Force stuff further away from a certain movie, I'd be okay with that. But the movie ends in a way that we can definitely see future films, and I'm almost certain we're going to get spin-off movies with these characters. So there won't be episode 10, 11, or 12 for years, but we will get like Star Wars, the Finn and Poe story, or Star Wars, the Rey's Academy. You know, we're going to get stuff like that. So that'd be pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, we have Darth Opinion. He says, what do you think about the throwback to young Luke and Leia training? I really love it. Okay, so I think that's pretty dope. I think it's pretty cool. I will say, Luke looked like legit. Like the CGI they did for Luke, that looked like young Luke. And young Leia, they still can't figure out how to get Leia's CGI, young CGI Leia right. It looked fake. And it was fake, but like Luke's face looked like Luke. That looked like a young Mark Hamill. And then you go to Leia, and it looked like a young Carrie Fisher, yes, but it was like a young CGI'd Carrie Fisher. And she was pretty, and I liked the scene, but it just kind of messed with a lot of stuff that we've previously known. I guess it kind of explains why she could use the Force so well in The Last Jedi. I like the idea of she was kind of like forced to use the powers. So, you know, in desperate times call for desperate situations call for desperate measures. She just used the Force to get herself out of there. You know, she just tapped into something that was hidden inside of her and saved her in The Last Jedi. So now we actually have more explanation on why she can do that. So that's pretty cool. I don't have an issue with that. Overall, I think this scene was pretty cool. Yes, it does mess with the previous established canon, but I'm okay with the idea because I always wanted to see Leia kind of be a Jedi. So it's cool that she actually had some training. Plus, if they ever do like another spin-off in the past, like a Solo movie, except for they do like a Leia adventure, I guess they can use her daughter, because her daughter does kind of look like her. If they wanted to do a Leia adventure, they could now, and they could put it in between episode 7 and episode 6. Sorry, they put it between episode 6 and 7 and call it like Star Wars, a Leia's training or something like that. So that'd be pretty cool. Overall, yeah, I think the scene was pretty good. Next one we have from Mark Tang. He says, how do you think Palpatine came back to life? Okay, so I kind of answered this question earlier. How do I think he came back to life? I think that the body that we saw got killed in the Death Star, I think that was not his real body. I think that was like his first clone. And that's why it looks so more degraded than the actual Palpatine we see. So maybe that's just me, but that's my best explanation to that. Yeah. So next one we have from Fizney Channel, and he says, do you think Anakin should have came back in the last movie and Obi-Wan and all the other Force ghosts instead of just hearing them? Yes. That is something that I've been waiting for since episode 7 was released. I want to see where we're having my Force ghosts. We got Yoda in Last Jedi. We got Luke in this one. We missed something here. That's how I feel. I feel like we missed something. And it was cool to hear their voices, but I would have really liked to have seen like Rey like stand up and be like, oh man, I'm going to lose. And then she looks back, and that's when she starts hearing the voices. She's like, what the heck? And she looks behind herself, and then there's all the ghosts like standing there like, you got this, Rey. You know what I mean? And it can do the same voiceovers, just have her like looking around, like seeing all these Jedi, like they're standing there with her. You know, that's what we needed to see, and we didn't get to see that. So I feel like that was initially what was probably in the script, was to do that. But then like JJ's like, you know, it'd be a lot of extra money just to get all those actors in here to do that. Let's just get voiceovers, you know. instead of doing like makeup, costumes, all that stuff, let's just do voiceovers. It'll be fine. That's just the way it's gonna be. So yeah, that's how I feel. But yeah, definitely Anakin should have showed up. I would have liked to see Obi-Wan too, even Qui Gon, but like Anakin should have been in this movie at some point. And like I said, talking to Han Solo, that was the point where he should have been put in the movie. Just my opinion though. Okay, so next one we have from Mike Strange. He says, what do you think of Anakin's Force Ghost and Palpatine's final duel? Do you think it would have made this film better or worse? I think not would have been a big improvement. Okay, so what do I think if he's asking if Anakin's Force Ghost would have came back to fight Palpatine in the final duel? That was what I initially thought was going to happen. If you guys watched my episode 9 predictions video, I actually thought that was going to happen in the movie, but it didn't. And I like I said with the last question, pretty much Anakin not showing up, even if he was just a cameo, just kind of standing there, it was a missed opportunity. I think if they ever do like a special edition of these movies, throw the Force Ghosts in that scene. I don't let George Lucas touch these new movies. Let him throw some Force Ghosts in. We'll even if they're just standing in the background, let it happen. That'd be cool. Next one we have from My Cubicle Penguin, and he says, can you explain the point of the sequels? Can I explain the point of the sequels? I'd grab my wallet and pull out money, but I think I left my wallet downstairs. Yeah, money. That's the point of the sequels. Because Star Wars makes money, and Star Wars was on a hiatus since 2005 when the Revenge of the Sith came out. So they decided, hey, let's continue the story because Star Wars make money. So that's the reason. There you go. You're welcome for that answer because that is 100%. That's the truth. Okay, next one we have from King Belgan, and he says, do you think that this is the end of Star Wars movies? No. Do I think it's the end of the main saga stories? For now, yes. I definitely think, like I said earlier in the video, episode 10 through 12, we're going to get those probably in 10 years. We're going to probably be following maybe like Rey older as she trains the kids from The Last Jedi or something like that. I definitely want to see another new Jedi Academy, and even if it isn't Jedi, a new Skywalker Academy or whatever they're going to call them. I want to see that. We should have saw that with Luke in episode 7. We didn't, and I would have really liked to see that. But I guess we'll probably get that in episode 10 if they're going to do that. So yes, this will be the end of the main saga films for now, but we're going to get a ton of spin-offs. And that includes probably like a Boba Fett movie at some point. So yeah. So next one we have from Fleeks Flux, and he says, do you think Finn is Force sensitive? Yes. This film hints to the idea that Finn is Force sensitive, and I actually really like this idea. Well, maybe I shouldn't say really like. I'm okay with this idea. I'm not against it at all. Initially, I was kind of like, wait, are they making Finn Force sensitive? But now I've become more okay with it, I guess you could say. It kind of makes more sense why Finn was in battle and all of a sudden he just got hit. Like, it was almost as if the Force was like, hey, wake up, buddy. You know, like, it explains episode 7 better, especially when you consider that in episode 7, Finn was a stormtrooper. He was trained to be a stormtrooper from near birth. And then when he gets into combat, he starts flipping out and being like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? And then all these people, you know, these troopers, I trained with them, and now they're dying in front of me. I'll never kill another person ever again. And then like 5 minutes later, he's killing his own stormtroopers. He's mowing down battalions of them. So my idea is that maybe that's when he woke up. Maybe The Force Awakens was kind of a nod to Finn in a way. The Force Awakens awoke, or the Force awoken Finn's Force sensitivity. So that would be pretty cool. Now, I don't know if they'll ever actually focus on that in the future, but it would be pretty cool, like I said, for episode 10, if they show, you know, Rey making her own Jedi Academy, if Finn was actually part of that, you know, and he actually had the ability to use the Force and a lightsaber, because we saw him in episode 7 doing some pretty good work against Finn, or against Kylo. So that's actually a pretty cool idea, the idea that maybe he is pretty Force sensitive, and maybe he was technically on the light side, so that's why he was able to keep up with Kylo so well. Because although Kylo was good, you know, Kylo was still a true Jedi, and Finn just had like hand-to-hand and melee training and stuff like that. So it was just cool to see that. Okay, next one is from Nicholas Murphy, and he says, "Hey, Net, I really dislike the fact that Rey destroys the Sith once and for all and not Anakin. What do you think?" Okay, so this question I had earlier, kind of. I don't see it as Rey necessarily doing it by herself. I see it as, like I mentioned earlier, Anakin did the work, and then Rey came and did the rest of the work. So that's how I see it. And yeah, that's just me. Okay, so the next one is from Luke, and he says, "What do you think about the kiss at the celebration? Was it really needed?" So we're talking about the kiss at the end of episode 9, at the very end of the film. We're not talking about the one with Rey and Kylo. We talked about that earlier, but this one is, what do you think about the kiss at the celebration? So he's talking about the lesbian kiss. I'm okay with that. I have no issue. You know, my sister has been a lesbian since she was like 15 or something like that. So I grew up knowing what gay and lesbian was, so I never really cared about that. I think I get the idea of why this might annoy people, not necessarily because it's like, oh, it's offensive, but it's because, why does it have to be in the film? I think the fact that it was kind of like, it's showing everyone celebrating, and then it cuts to a scene of 2 women kissing, and then it goes to the next thing. I think that was fine. That is the proper way to do that type of stuff, in my opinion. Just kind of have it like it's normal. Because, you know, if that would have showed like 2 rebels, a guy and a girl kissing, no one would have even batted an eye. But it's because it's supposed to send a message. I think that this is a much better way to kind of send like an SJW message, considering the stuff we got in The Last Jedi. So if we're going to do it, I'm actually perfectly fine with it. It doesn't offend me, and I think that it was done tastefully, so whatever. Next one we have from James Kreisler, and he says, "Should Anakin have replaced Han in that scene with Ben? I think so, but I'm curious to see others' opinions." Okay, yeah, so this is what I said earlier about the Han Solo scene. Anakin should have replaced Han. Anakin should have been the one to help Kylo officially turn back to Ben. Okay, so, because he was once Vader and he turned back to Anakin, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. So next one is, Luke again. He says, "What did Finn need to tell Rey?" Okay, so I actually did some research on this, and the entire time, the film alludes to the idea that Finn wanted to tell Rey that he like loved her or he wanted to be with her. But I actually found out that what he wanted to tell her was that he was force sensitive. So he actually discovered this somewhere between, I guess, episode 8 and 9. He discovers the fact that he's force sensitive. And they show hints of this throughout the entire film. I think you're supposed to connect the dots, but the way the film is kind of like jumpy and like a little bit jarring in some places, it comes off more like he wants to tell her he loves her and not that he's force sensitive. So I think those 2 bridges were supposed to connect. You know, the 2 bridges were supposed to connect, but instead there was one bridge, and we were kind of thinking of another bridge. You know, so they weren't really connecting. They were you know, further away from each other. So I think that could have been done better, but I guess you can kind of connect the dots if you really want to, you know, dive deep. But probably should have been done better, because by the end of the movie, I actually thought the same thing until I did some research, and I shouldn't have to do research to find out what he was actually going to tell Rey. Okay, next one we have The Nerd, and we have, would you say this movie is a better ending to The Return of Jedi? Okay, so this kind of goes hand in hand with the question I had earlier. So The Return of the Jedi, when that movie, regardless of what you want to say about that movie, you know, with the Ewoks, or if you hate it, it was a satisfying conclusion to the overall saga. So while if you hated the movie, in the end of that film, you can't say that it doesn't feel satisfying. You know, all loose ends get cut. You know, Anakin is redeemed. Luke is the hero. And, you know, our heroes are good. The Empire is taken down. The movie ends with a nice little bow on top. The Rise of Skywalker doesn't end that way. The Rise of Skywalker ends pretty good, but it's not satisfying, like I said earlier. It ends in a way that kind of feels like there's something missing. And that's what I personally feel about that. And I think a reason for that is because, like I said, this isn't going to be the last Star Wars movie, and it's probably going to be, spin-off movies from here on until 10 years from now. So actually, it might even be 5 years. They might not even take 10 years. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Not as good as the Return of the Jedi ending, but I think it's fine. Okay, so I think I got like 4 more questions here, so let's just crank these bad boys out. Where do you think Rey got her yellow lightsaber crystal? Okay, so this one is just the more like speculation, less of what my opinion of it. I kind of gave my opinion on that earlier. I don't know. I'd like to say, but there's been no like representation of where it came from. I know that yellow lightsaber crystals in canon, at least, were used by the Jedi who were like the Jedi defenders or the Temple defenders. And they were apparently so skilled at fighting that they were given yellow blades to represent, their how good they were or something like that. I'm sure someone in the comments can correct me on that. But I'm pretty sure Rey probably got that because that was going to be like the representation of the yellow blade. That's why she got it. But maybe it also is supposed to introduce the idea like, hey, like yellow lightsabers in film we haven't seen yet. We've seen red, we've seen blue, we've seen green, we've even seen purple, but we haven't seen yellow actually on film. So maybe that was supposed to represent the future of this franchise. The idea like, hey, we're changing things up coming. The next films are going to change a lot of things up. And bring stuff back from like Legends and stuff like that. And even mention more stuff from like the cartoons and TV shows. Speaking of which, why wasn't Ahsoka or Ezra in this film? That's just a little insert into this thing. But I wanted to see them. And I guess, Ahsoka's voice is heard, so I guess she's dead. But Ezra's isn't. So maybe Ezra's still alive in this franchise. Maybe he can come back in episode 10 through 11 and 12 and kind of be like... He kind of had like dark side tendencies. Maybe he can be the enemy of the, him and Thrawn could be like the bad guys of the new one. I don't know. That's just my opinion, But that'd be pretty cool though. Not gonna lie. Okay, so we got a few more questions here. Next one is from Gangster. He says in number 3, Emperor tells Anakin that it's a Sith ability to save the ones you love from dying, but Rey saves Kylo and the monster thing from dying with the Force healing. And Force healing creates so many plot holes. Why didn't Obi-Wan save Qui Gon? Okay, so I'm pretty sure that the Jedi in the prequel series, they couldn't actually use true Force healing, at least to that effect. I think that they could kind of help to, heal a little bit, but they couldn't fix it that quick. They couldn't fix the wound like the Jedi of now. And I think the reason for that is because you need emotions, you need more like care and more like love for what you are doing and for fixing. And the Jedis in the prequels, I don't think they weren't allowed to have emotions in the first place, so I doubt they were allowed to love the person they were healing. And I think that's the one thing that Rey could do, is the fact that not only was she a Palpatine and she had all this great power, but she also really cared she necessarily cared about who she was healing, but she cared about healing. She wanted to save that person, so she used the Force to do so. And I don't think Obi-Wan was properly trained enough to be able to do that anyways. So this could all be speculation, but that's just what I'm going to go off of, because now that Jedi can heal, it does raise a question: why didn't they heal in the past? Because a lot of people could probably heal back. That monster had like a massive gash off. How well does healing go? If someone gets their arm cut off, can you use the Force to heal that arm back? If you're that good, can you really bring that arm back? Even technically Palpatine was missing fingers, and when he absorbed their power, he could heal himself, So, I don't know. That should probably be explained in the next movie or a future TV show or comic books or novels, but we should get more explanation on that. Okay, next one's from another Jacob Chile, and he says, what do you think about Kylo Ren's redemption? Do you think it should have happened? Yeah, I think that Kylo is the true main character of this entire series. We're supposed to think that Rey is the main character, but this is actually Kylo's story. And that's what they've been kind of showing. Episode 7 doesn't really show that. Episode 8 shows that more, and then Episode 9 definitely kind of shows that it is his story ultimately. Even if he does die, he has the hero's journey. So even if his hero's journey isn't as epic as Anakin's, although it does mirror it a lot, it's what was supposed to happen. It was what the Force set out for him to do. He was supposed to he was set in this world to save Rey, you know, and that's kind of what he does, and he does do that. So, strange enough, in a way, Anakin was brought to destroy the Sith, which was essentially mean to destroy Palpatine. But in doing so, Palpatine made Anakin. Anakin had Luke and Leia. Leia had Kylo. Kylo then assisted in helping Rey take down Palpatine. Rey then effectively kills Palpatine, and then she sacrifices herself to do it, and then Kylo sacrifices himself to save Rey. So it's really weird how that whole dynamic works. If you look at it that way, it's actually pretty deep, though, you know, because Anakin and all these Jedi have been working to take down Palpatine. Rey does take down Palpatine. So Palpatine takes down a Palpatine, sacrifices themselves, and then a Skywalker helps gives his life to give it to a Palpatine, and the Palpatine comes back to life, but then takes the name Skywalker anyways. So Rey, technically speaking, is a Skywalker and a Palpatine. So that's really cool how that dynamic works. I don't think that's really deep. That's a really deep idea. This is a deeper video than I thought it was going to be, guys. This is a great video. Yeah, so we've got one more, and then we'll do my closing thoughts. Okay, so this one is I Am Viking. He says, I think Ben should have survived instead of Rey. What do you think? Okay, so initially I thought that in the film, but I was also kind of like, no, Rey needs to survive. Like, Kylo's story has been told. You know, he has redeemed himself, and as much as I'd like to see them both kind of come together and lead this new Jedi Academy, technically speaking, with Palpatine gone, the dark side isn't clouding the galaxy anymore. So the Force Ghosts could actually come out and assist Rey in actually being there. So although Kylo is gone, he could come back as a Force Ghost and still be with her, even if it isn't physically. So I think that's a really cool concept that they could explore in episode 10 through 11. The idea that, or episode 10 through 12, the idea that Kylo is, you know, he still has a lot of feelings for Rey, and Rey could still have feelings for him, but he's dead, you know what I mean? And it's not her time yet. So maybe by the end of episode 12, she finally does die, and then they can finally be together for eternity. And I think that'd be a really cool concept to explore. So yeah, I definitely think they made the right call by taking out Ben. If they had to choose between Ben and Rey, I think Ben was the correct way to go. He just had way too many sins he had to answer for. So that's just my opinion, though. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys for participating in this. Make sure to keep an eye out for more community tab posts like this. This is a really fun video. If you guys wanted to see more stuff like this, if you like these kind of just sit back, relax, drink some drink, and just do more like a podcast video, let me know in the comments below if you want to see more. Give me some suggestions for future podcasts, you know, on what I'd like to see future movies, or I kind of did a video on that, but like just other type of specifics. Maybe I have a cool idea, I'll do it. So yeah, that's it for now, guys. If you want to see more of my content, I definitely recommend checking out my Star Wars movie review series. I have Rogue One coming next weekend, and I have Solo coming the weekend after that, and then I'm going to kind of transition into other movies and other movie reviews too. So I don't want to like exclusively be a Star Wars channel. I'm still going to cover a ton of Star Wars stuff, guys, but I want to kind of become more of like a everything entertainment channel, you know, talking about TV shows, talking about movies, stuff like that. So let me know some ideas in the comments below if you guys like that idea. But that is it for now, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more videos. And till next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.